Welcome to part 7 of Justin Baldoni's October 7 deposition. Gottlieb, Mr. Baldoni, you're being handed what's been marked as Exhibit 37. Exhibit 37 marked for identification. Justin, thank you. Gottlieb, Exhibit 37 is an email you sent to Alex Sachs, Ange Gianetti, Jamie Heath, Andrew Kaloff, and A.J. Marbury on February 20th, 2023. It bears Bates number SPE_BL 5563 through 5564. Justin, I'm going to read it if that's all right. Gottlieb, yeah. Ahuran, Steve? Phone interruption. Sarwitz, sorry about that. Gottlieb, can we go off record, please? Videographer, we're going off the record. The time is 5:47 p.m. Recess. The videographer, we're back on the record. The time is 5:47 p.m. Gottlieb, Mr. Baldoni, we're looking at what's been marked as Exhibit 37, same as we were before the break. And this is a message that you sent to Alex Sachs, Ange Gianetti, Mr. Heath, Mr. Kaloff, copied to A.J. Marbury on February 20, 2023. Correct. Who is A.J. Marbury? I'm sorry, I'm still finishing reading. Okay. Thank you. You sent this email? I did. It was an apology to the group? Yes. And especially to Alex Sachs? Yes. Who is A.J. Marbury? My former assistant. You talked about this apology in a talk you did with Jane Randolph from No More a month later in March of 2023. Is that right? I don't know. You say here that, as read, over the last few months, I haven't been the safest place for myself, and in that energetically, I feel I failed at being a safe place for others. Do you see that? I do. Did you think that you had failed at being a safe place for others in the last few months? I think I was being very hard on myself here. Okay, does that mean you were being dishonest? Shapiro, objection. Justin, no. But as I sit here today and I read this, I feel I was disproportionately hard on myself. Gottlieb, you talk about how in a meeting that you had recently with Miss Sachs and Miss Gianetti and Mr. Kaloff and Mr. Heath, you had interrupted and mansplained something as it relates to abuse and data and statistics to Miss Sachs. Is that right? That's correct. And you promise that, as read, as we go forward, I will make sure that doesn't happen again to any of the women involved in this film. Shapiro, objection. Justin, that is what I said. Gottlieb said you would always listen. Yes. Do you think pressure had been getting to you at this point, the end of February 2023? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't know if I can answer if it's been getting to me. I think I felt a lot of pressure. Gottlieb, and that pressure had caused you to act in a way where you failed it being a safe place for others. No. Would you have said these things you said here to Miss Sachs if Miss Sachs had not been a woman? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't think I can answer that question. Gottlieb, did you watch or read Miss Sachs' deposition testimony? I did not read it. I watched some of it. Did you watch the part where Miss Sachs testified about an incident on set in which she felt verbally abused by you? I don't remember hearing verbally abused, no. Do you recall Miss Sachs testifying about how you had yelled at her on the set at one point? I remember her testifying that, yes. And she had felt frightened by that? I'm not sure if that was her testimony. Do you recall Miss Sachs walking off of set after that incident occurred? I do not. With respect to A.J. Marbury, do you remember at any point in time asking, is A.J. Marbury a man or a woman? Woman. Do you recall at any point in time having Miss Marbury take a harassment prevention class on your behalf? No. Do you recall at any point in time in April of 2023 that you were supposed to be taking a harassment prevention class? I don't. Do you recall an exchange with Miss Marbury on April 2, 2023, in which she said, "You're acing your harassment prevention class. Truly stellar job." And you responded, "Thank you. I'm working really hard at it." I don't. Okay, I want to ask you about the birth scene in It Ends With Us. Are we done with this? Yes. Did you suggest that Miss Lively perform the birth scene naked? No. Did Mr. Heath? No. Did anyone else? I don't know. Did you want Miss Lively to perform the birth scene without most of her clothes on? No. Did you ever tell Miss Lively that your wife had ripped her clothes off during childbirth? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I do not recall a conversation where I said she ripped her clothes off during childbirth. Gottlieb, do you recall ever sharing any information with Miss Lively and speaking about the birth scene in the movie where you recounted information about your wife giving birth to Miss Lively? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I remember numerous conversations where Miss Lively and I were talking about our, and I don't mean my birth, but our collective births where she shared personal information and then I shared personal information about my wife. Gottlieb, And as you sit here today, you can't recall any conversation in which the topic included the amount of clothing or the type of clothing that Miss Lively's character ought to wear during the birthing scene? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't remember anything specific about clothing. That was definitely not what we were talking about in terms of all the conversation around our births. Gottlieb, did you ever ask Mr. Heath to share any portion of a video of his wife giving birth with Miss Lively? I did. Did you specify when you asked Mr. Heath to share that video with Miss Lively what he should share from it or how much he should share from it? Shapiro, objection. Justin, the only video I'm aware of is after the birth of his child, so I believe there's only one that I had asked him to share. Gottlieb, there's only one video that you're aware of that you've ever seen that I asked him to share? That you asked him to share with Miss Lively? Yes. And your testimony is that the video begins after the point that the baby was born? I have not watched the video in years. I believe it was the birth of his daughter. And my memory of the beginning of the video is that him and his wife, Natasha, and his baby are in a birthing tub surrounded by his family. Do you have any knowledge, one way or the other, whether the entire event of the birth of Mr. Heath's child was filmed or put on video? I was not there. You were not there? I was not at the birth of his child. But do you know, one way or the other, whether there is a video of his wife giving birth? As I said, I was not there, so I would not know. And were you present when Mr. Heath showed this video to Miss Lively? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I was not. Gottlieb, do you know, one way or the other, how much of the video Mr. Heath showed to Miss Lively? I have no personal knowledge of that. Do you know whether Wayfair Studios ever described the video that Mr. Heath showed to Miss Lively as a birthing video? I don't. Do you recall testifying yesterday about some communications with Melissa Nathan and Tag Team about a scenario planning document? Yes. And I think it was in Exhibit 16 that was introduced yesterday, and there was a document in which you were asked some questions about saying that you didn't feel that the scenario planning document, was all that impressive. Do you recall testifying to that effect? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't recall my exact testimony from yesterday. Gottlieb, do you recall yesterday saying that about the scenario planning document? You thought it wasn't that impressive and you felt like they were just trying to get the gig. It sounds like that's what I said and you're reading it, so I'm going to say yes. Do you recall testifying yesterday that you were feeling so scared and anxious that even if they had proposed to build an iron dome, you wouldn't have felt protected? I do remember that. And you testified that you were extremely worried about the gloves coming off, remember? As I think anyone would be, yes. Okay, first of all, at the point in which you were exchanging this information about the scenario planning document, do you recall when you were exchanging back and forth communication with Miss Abel or Miss Nathan about the scenario planning document and what Tag was proposing to do? Shapiro, objection. Justin, August. Gottlieb, if I told you that Exhibit 16 had a date of August 2nd on it, would that sound right to you? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I would believe you. Gottlieb, at that point, you're not yet in New York for the press junket, right? On August 2, 2024? I was in Sweden, correct. The first day of the press junket was August 5th, was that right? Thank you for telling me, yes. On August 8th, you fly to Chicago, is that right? That sounds about right. So on August 2nd, there is not a lot of social media chatter about the premiere and what is happening with the premiere, right? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't know. Gottlieb, but the edit is done, right? The edit? Of the film, the movie's done, right? It had been done for months, yes. Posters were printed, yes. The trailer's been out for months, correct. All that is left at this point is the premiere, right? And more promotion. And the thing that you're afraid of, the storm you see coming, is the reaction to when you and the cast don't appear at the premiere together, right? Shapiro, objection. Justin, one of the things. Gottlieb, what were you afraid people would infer when you and the cast did not appear together at the premiere? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I think what I was afraid of was what I didn't know people would infer. I think the internet is a scary place, and I think what happens is when a situation is created, I believe intentionally, to leave Easter eggs that something could be amiss so that the internet can fill in the blanks, I think anything is possible. I think imaginations can run wild, and I also think that at that point, that's where lies can be told. And I think all of that was very scary to me. Gottlieb, did it occur to you at this time, Mr. Baldoni, that there might be a good reason why Jenny Slate didn't want to follow you on social media and didn't want to appear alongside you at the premiere? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I had a perfectly fine working relationship with Jenny Slate from the moment that I was made aware that she didn't like my sexy comment about her wardrobe and all the hugs. So from that point forward, Miss Slate and I never had an issue nor discussed anything. Gottlieb, did it occur to you that Isabella Ferrer might have a reason why she didn't want to appear alongside you at the premiere? Objection. Justin, I was very confused by why Miss Ferrer unfollowed me and wouldn't appear with me. I had no idea. Gottlieb, did you ask her why? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I think it was very clear that when a person publicly unfollows you and also through channels tells you they don't want you at the premiere or they won't attend, I think I took the hint that I shouldn't reach out to anybody and ask. Gottlieb, but you didn't reach out and ask, right? I did not believe that anything that I had to say could compete with any influence that Miss Lively had. Even though in your view all of this was based on lies? Shapiro, objection. Justin, when you're dealing with arguably the most powerful couple in Hollywood with the most powerful friends in the world, mixed with someone who's extremely charming and personable and has so much to offer someone as young as her, by that point, there was nothing I believe I could have said to her that could affect any influence that Miss Lively had had on her. So I did not even try. Gottlieb, so it's your testimony that you believe that the reason that all of the cast members who unfollowed you and did not want to appear alongside you at the premiere, that all of them did that only because Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds had pressured them to do so. Shapiro, objection. Justin, that's not my testimony. Gottlieb, is that what you believe? I believe that prior to meeting and working with Miss Lively, I have never had anyone unfollow me or ask to not be seen in a photo with me. That's what I believe. Because you had never experienced that before, are you saying that you attribute the cause of the unfollowing and the request to not appear alongside you at the premiere? You attribute the cause of all of that to Miss Lively. Shapiro, objection. Justin, that's not my testimony. Gottlieb, do you think your conduct on the set of It Ends With Us had anything to do with the decisions made by cast members other than Miss Lively to not follow you and not appear alongside you at the premiere? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I'm unsure if... Gottlieb, can you repeat the question? This is not working for me. Stenographic reporter, record read as follows. Do you think your conduct on the set of It Ends With Us had anything to do with the decisions made by cast members other than Miss Lively not wanting to follow you and not appearing alongside you at the premiere? Justin, I can't speculate and answer that question. Gottlieb, you don't know what their motivations were? I think it's impossible to know what anybody's motivation is. And you didn't ask what their motivations were? I did not ask what anyone's motivations were. And notwithstanding that you were very concerned and very afraid, you did not initiate an investigation at this point in time to clear your name? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I did not initiate an investigation at that time. Gottlieb, instead, you retained the agency group, right? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I would not classify it as that. Gottlieb, and you commissioned the scenario planning document to get ahead of what you thought might be coming. Shapiro, objection. Justin, I just want to go back. I did not use the word instead of investigating. I just want to say that that's not it. I disagree. Gottlieb, you didn't investigate, correct? I did not investigate. You didn't talk to the cast members who had unfollowed you, correct? Correct. You didn't go out and give an interview and speak publicly where you said, I'm concerned there are misconceptions or misapprehensions about what had happened on the set. You didn't do that, right? Shapiro, objection. Justin, no. Gottlieb, instead, what you did is you asked your team to prepare a plan in the event that any information became public, right? Shapiro, objection. Justin, no. Gottlieb, okay, 38. Exhibit 38, marked for identification. Exhibit 38 is a document bearing Bates numbers, Nathan, 5497 through 5506, and I will represent to you, sir. There are two versions of the same document attached to this at the end, so you'll only... Justin, is there any reason for that? Gottlieb, that's how it was produced to us. And so in looking through this, you only need to look through the text and the first 4 pages there. So I'm not to look at the document. You can look through the text and then just, all I'm saying is you don't need to read the same document twice. Are we sure you know it's the exact same document? I'm going to represent to you that it is. Okay, but are we sure? Your lawyers will call me on that if I'm lying. Gottlieb, I'm wrong. It's very different. I will retract my statement and you may review the whole thing. Justin, she didn't even have to call you out on it. Gottlieb, I apologize. I was mistaken. My mistake. Justin, can I borrow this pen? Gottlieb, sure. I'm sorry, Mr. Baldoni. I can represent to you, if you look at the text, that the only difference between the two documents is reflected in the second message on the text page is a correction. You mean you can represent to me what you just did? Yeah, but you were just wrong. Do you want to read the text? I'm just, not that I don't trust you, but in the same way, I just want to read it if that's okay. Okay. Ahuran. Sorry, I would like to clarify. So these are duplicates of the... I know you've been going back and forth about that. Gottlieb, no, there's a change made. There's one change. Ahuran, between this and this? Gottlieb, there's 2 documents attached at the end. They're both attachments that are referenced in the text messages, which you will see if you follow through. And there's a description of the change that's made in the text messages. Ahuran, got it, thank you. Gottlieb, and again, this was how the document was produced to us. Ahuran, understood. Gottlieb, Mr. Baldoni, I'm going to ask you to stop your review now. You've been reading this document for 10 minutes, and I promise you I will not ask you any questions about the differences between the two versions of this. I just want you to know I just finished reading this, and I felt like I was reading at a decent speed. Okay, I'm stating for the record, the reason I'm asking you to stop your review now, this is a document that is a text message exchange between you, Mr. Heath, Miss Case, Miss Nathan, and others on August 2nd, 2024. Is that correct? That appears to be correct. And there are two versions of this scenario planning document that are attached to this. Is that right? That's what I'm taking yours and everyone's word for. Okay, and you recall being sent the scenario planning document. Is that right? Again, I believe I do. You testified about it yesterday, feeling that it didn't provide the protection that you were looking for at that time. Is this the same version of the document that I was testifying about yesterday? Can we agree that you testified about a scenario planning document sent to you by TAG that you were unimpressed with? Shapiro, objection. Justin, yes. I just don't know if that's this one or not. Gottlieb, okay, do you know as you sit here today which, if any of the services or activities or tactics laid out in the scenario planning documents were put into motion? Shapiro, objection. Justin, my understanding based on my directives, and I believe Mr. Heath's, was that nothing was to be put into motion. We were in a completely defensive place. Gottlieb, did you know that alongside Jen Abel and her team TAG did, in fact, manage media inquiries regarding the news on the background as sources familiar? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't know what that means. Gottlieb, you don't know what it means to talk to media as a source familiar? Shapiro, objection. Justin, a source familiar? Specify, please. Gottlieb, you don't know what it means to talk to a reporter, not on the record in an official statement, but rather saying you, reporter, can print this is what happened based on a source familiar? Shapiro, objection. Justin, being very honest, the way that you're describing it is not something that I mean, I know that you speak to reporters, that's their job in PR, but a source familiar is not something I've heard. Gottlieb, so you knew that Miss Abel and the tag team were talking to reporters during their engagement. I mean, Miss Abel's engagement, that's her job, is to speak to reporters. So I'm asking you if you know one way or the other whether Tag and Miss Abel were managing media inquiries regarding the news on background as sources familiar. Shapiro, objection. Justin, I was not with them, so I would have no way to know one way or the other. Gottlieb, did you have a view on whether you wanted them to be doing that? Shapiro, objection. Justin, yes, I did. I had a very strong view. Gottlieb, and what was that view? I didn't want them saying anything that was negative about anybody or anything. You didn't want them saying anything that was negative about anyone or anything, even on background? Absolutely. Even off the record? I don't know if I can be more specific than I just was. Do you know if they ever, Miss Abel and Tag, working on your behalf, said anything negative about anyone to members of the media during this period of time in August of 2024? Shapiro, objection. Justin, again, I don't know how I would know that. Gottlieb, did you want Tag to be providing information to ensure that your narrative was properly represented in any and all coverage? That my narrative was properly representative in any and all coverage? The only narrative that I wanted to make sure was properly represented was my original intentions for why I wanted to make this movie. That was extremely important to me. Do you know one way or the other whether Tag confirmed that outlets on intending covering the story, especially those impactful to you, Mr. Heath, and Wayfair interests, were fully briefed on the situation, including and not limited to The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline, The Wrap, New York Post, Daily Mail, etc.? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I feel like I can save you a lot of questions by telling you that this was a scenario planning document that was never, from my end, given approval to execute on any level. Gottlieb, any piece of this document? Shapiro, objection. Justin, yes. Gottlieb, it's your testimony that you believe that you never approved Tag or Miss Abel doing any of the things that are listed in this document. I believe we started this conversation by you saying if I remembered my testimony and that I wasn't satisfied with this document. So if I'm answering your question the way that I think you're asking it, then that would be yes, because I did not like this document. I didn't find it to be amazing. And so there was nothing that could be approved from it. I didn't ever approve this document. You wanted Tag to do something else. I was not satisfied with this particular document. And you had a call following up on this scenario planning document with Miss Nathan and Miss Abel, right? I don't remember the specifics of the call, but I'm sure I did. Did they talk to you in that call about what it would mean to get ahead of the narrative? Not that I remember. You have no recollection of discussing with Miss Nathan or Miss Abel things that could be done to get ahead of the narrative that you were afraid might come out? Shapiro, objection. Justin, my conversations with Miss Abel and Miss Nathan were very few together, and they were very, very clear that I wanted to focus on the good. Gottlieb, do you remember looking at a document that had a post of Hailey Bieber embedded in it yesterday? It was Exhibit 17. I can't recall the exhibit number, but I do remember the document. And you testified that I will represent to you. Is this still, are we done? We're done. I will represent to you that Exhibit 17 that was admitted yesterday was a text exchange with you, you and Miss Abel on August 5th, 2024. Do you have it? I would love to see it so I can reference it. Well, I'm going to just ask you some questions. August 5th was the start of the press junket, right? If that's the date you gave me before, then I will continue to believe you. Yes. And you testified yesterday that there was a reference to friction that you and Miss Abel discussed, and you had used the word friction in an interview that you had given, and Sony had objected to that. Do you recall that? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I remember a text message where she was saying that Sony didn't like the word friction, but again, it would be easier if you would give me the document because then I can respond to it. Gottlieb, I understand that. Do you recall the text message Miss Abel sent to you saying, as read, Sony is having a hard time with the word friction. They think it will be taken out as clickbait. They obviously don't know about our strategy, but let's stick to the word of challenge in the role that you had as a director to get everyone to come together and be on the same page to create something beautiful. Do you remember that exchange? Yes, I do, from yesterday's deposition. You testified that the reference to friction was part of the strategy to saying only positive things and not drawing attention to the situation. Is that right? Shapiro, objection. Justin, do we have my testimony and I can confirm that was exactly what I said, or are you paraphrasing that? Gottlieb, is that consistent with your recollection? I believe so. Isn't it in fact true that the use of the word friction was itself a press strategy to get ahead of a particular narrative? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I'm not sure. I feel like there's only so many words you can use to describe in a positive way what was experienced. Gottlieb, would you be surprised to learn that Tag and Miss Abel had specifically discussed you using the word friction in order to plant a seed and get ahead of a narrative? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't agree with the way that you're characterizing that question. Gottlieb, did you agree with Sony that the word friction at any time when there was speculation in the fan community about a feud was clickbait? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't remember agreeing with much of anything Sony was saying during that time. Gottlieb, including their advice about how to market the film? I believe from day one, before I even sold the film to Sony or partnered with them, we had disagreements on how to market the film. And it is in response to that message about friction from Miss Abel that you sent Miss Abel the screenshot of the Hailey Bieber thread from Twitter, right? No, it's not? No. You said in response to what? Would you mind reading me the time of my message and the time of the Hailey Bieber message? Sure. The time of the first message from Miss Abel is 10:42 a.m. and the time of your message to Miss Abel about Hailey Bieber is at 12:06 p.m. So I don't have a calculator, but could you help me with how much time is between those two texts? I think you know how much time is between those two texts. I genuinely don't know how much time. What is it you would like to say? Well, your question was it a response? And your testimony, I gather, is a no. It was a not. That is my testimony, that it was not a response. Okay, what were you responding to when you said this is what we would need and you sent the Twitter thread of Hailey Bieber? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I don't agree with the question. I can't answer that. Gottlieb, what were you trying to convey? No, strike that. Why did you send this message at 12:06 p.m. to Miss Abel in which you say, as read, this is what we would need? And the only thing you have put into the text thread is a screenshot of a Twitter thread where the line at the top says, as read, Hailey Bieber's history of bullying many women, not just Selena Gomez, throughout the years thread. Miss Shapiro, objection. Justin, that's a very long question you just asked me. Gottlieb, why did you send that to Miss Abel? Justin, but I can't answer the why. It was not a response. That's why I couldn't answer the question. Why did you send it to Miss Abel? Again, we were in a place of defense, and as you may have seen from many of the early text threads you've shown me, I was afraid. At this point, I felt I was up against Goliath, and Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, and everyone in their circle, Hugh Jackman, Sean Levy, Taylor Swift. By that point, as I testified earlier, I was essentially forced or threatened to step down off my film. I wasn't able to finish my own film, even considering it tested higher. Somehow the actress of my movie, who was not a producer, was able to take complete control of the film. By this point, Miss Lively had requested that my name be removed, so I had my film bio credit removed. I was removed from the majority of marketing materials from the poster. I was being removed for the most part from the trailer. I know that she had been working with Taylor Swift to make sure that she got the song that she wanted in the film, and I had assumed that that was not a battle or a fight that I could ever win. All of the cast had unfollowed me, which is a very public thing to do right before a movie comes out, all in unison. And at the same time, I was being threatened via my agency that if I didn't release a statement, then the gloves would come off. Now, I don't know the exact sequence of the time in which I sent that text, but I will tell you that the feeling and the aura around the environment that was created, not by me at that time, created a lot of fear. I didn't know what was possible. So we were in a defensive mode because at this point, I didn't know what Miss Lively or her group of powerful Hollywood elites were capable of. So I saw a message or I saw a tweet, which I did not read, and I saw that it was a celebrity woman who had a history of bullying. And I resonated with the term bullying because to me, that was a true statement to what I experienced. I felt I was being very bullied. So I sent that to Miss Abel on a whim in an emotional state, but I made sure to preface it with this. This is what we would, with an emphasis and the operative word being would need. Not that we need to do this, not that I want this, but this is what we would need if lies were to be spread about me intentionally. The gloves would come off conversation hadn't happened at that time you sent this, right? So then we can imagine that the conversation, it was all mixed into the same feeling. But the feeling I had was everything else that I said. You hadn't been threatened yet? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I wouldn't agree with that. Gottlieb, you mentioned having your film buy credit removed. Yes. Do you know what another word for the film buy credit is in Hollywood? I would love you to educate me. Have you ever heard it referred to as the vanity credit? No. Do you understand that there is significant controversy in your industry, over the use of the film buy credit? I was not aware. Are you aware that it has been criticized by a number of directors because it conveys that all of the people who work on a movie are less important than the director? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I was not aware until you just said that. Gottlieb, did Miss Lively, was she the cause of your film buy credit being removed from this movie? What was relayed to me was that Miss Lively requested it to be removed. Do you know what other directors you admire and look up to do with respect to the film buy credit? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I wouldn't know. Gottlieb, would you want to have a credit that's known as the vanity credit be something you sought on a film written by Colleen Hoover with the screenplay screenplay written by a woman with many women acting on it? Would you want a credit that's known as the vanity credit attached to your name? Shapiro, objection. Justin, until you brought it up right now, this was the first I'd ever heard of it. Gottlieb, you never thought to ask? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I'm not sure how I can ask about something I don't know about. Gottlieb, did Miss Lively remove you from the trailer? What was related to me was that she was attempting to. Who had approval authority over the trailer? What do you mean exactly? Who had approval authority over the trailer that was released? Who was in charge? I believe Miss Lively. You believe Blake Lively had the approval authority over the final trailer that was released for the film It Ends With Us? From my understanding, in many ways, that's what she claimed in her letter to the Producers Guild of America. Did you ever ask Sony's president why your film buy credit was removed? Sony's president relayed to Jamie, it's my understanding, or it could have been Ange, why my film buy credit was removed. Did you ever confirm with anyone who actually made the decision about the final composition of the trailer? Shapiro, objection. Justin, I was having some conversations with Ange Gianetti and some of the people involved in the trailer. Gottlieb, did you do a promotional event upon the release of the trailer? I did. Was Miss Lively there? She was not. Was Colleen Hoover there? Yes. Was there a floral pop-up shop? I believe there was. Did you make bouquets? With Miss Hoover, I did. You and Miss Hoover made bouquets? I believe that's what I just said. For influencers and fans? It was a pop-up shop for influencers and fans, correct. Gottlieb, can I get a time check, please? And can we go off the record? The videographer, we are going off the record. The time is 6:36 p.m. Recess. The videographer, we're back on the record. This time is 7:05 p.m. I'll see you in part 8.